Hello, public opinion aficionados, and welcome to Rasmussen Reports, the independent pollster who is the arch nemesis of MSNBC. Now, to be honest, we spend absolutely zero time thinking about that den of lies. I spend more time thinking about the difference between traditional and tomato and basil marinara sauce. But for some reason, I think things are heating up and they don't like our poll numbers being out there. We literally just ask Americans questions and report on the results. Although for an outfit like them, who is tied in with major corporate advertisers and who knows who within the deep state and intel agencies, freedom of speech can be a little bit of a dangerous thing. And so they've been talking about us, and we decided to talk about them as well. And a lot of people didn't see our most recent video because I released it late last night. But after we get through the state of the race and our most recently released Trump versus Harris numbers that came out just an hour ago, we're going to take a look at the absolute insanity of MSNBC viewers and how they're affecting the presidential race. And hold on to the end, because I'm going to explain why I think the wheels are starting to fall off the Kamala Harris campaign. I think next week is the week it all falls apart and people start distancing themselves from her. But maybe something crazy happens. Who knows? We only have a month left to Election Day. But here are the latest overnight results. And we actually got a Harris +3 last night after 2 nights in a row of Trump +3. The moving average still looks a little bit higher than 1 point, but who needs the moving average when we have a set of crosstabs that we're about to show you that aggregate the last 5 nights of data. And here they are, almost 1,800 U.S. likely voters. And again, for the 4th week in a row, Donald Trump is beating Kamala Harris by 2 points, 49% to 47%. And this is a stunning performance for Donald Trump, who in no other election cycle ever even got close to 49%. And what's crazy is how stable the internal demographics now are starting to look. All of them, but Hispanic voters. But we're going to get to that. Donald Trump has been winning men by just about upper single digits every single time, 51 to 44 here. Down slightly among women by 4 points, roughly tied with 18 to 39-year-olds. In this sample, he's a little bit up. And this is kind of weird. He's roughly tied among middle-aged voters, but maybe there's some regional up and downs and whatever. But Trump is winning big among older voters here. I'm happy to see that come together because he's been down, and it doesn't make sense to me. But Trump is winning the white vote by 5 points. Maybe we got a few more suburban white women this time. Donald Trump's taking home 25% of the black vote. It's tempering itself a little bit. It was 28 or 29 last couple times, but he's winning Hispanic 62% to 36%. This is an outlier. The party numbers, again, time and time again, there is zero crossover advantage. But what's going to happen is, this is what people say when they answer the polls. When push comes to shove, when it's election day, it really is going to come down to individual state considerations, whether they think their vote will count. And I think a feeling of potentially demoralization that might affect either party. Although, again, I have my reasons why I think it might be the Democrats this time. And Donald Trump is solidly beating Kamala Harris by 7 points among independent voters. These are open to the public at rasmussenreports.com. You can go download them yourselves and look at the rest of the demographics. But let's just look. Again, I put this in a video, went out last night. Not a lot of people saw it. It was kind of long. But these are the combined crosstabs from the state polling we did just over a week ago. And what I did was front load the columns here that talk about what news people watch. And MSNBC viewers, by far, say that abortion is their number one issue when presented with this massive list. Nobody else says that. 29% of CNN watchers say economy, and it's 44% and 38% of Fox News and Newsmax people, respectively. I really don't think a plurality of people say abortion at all in any other group. I mean, this is, Democrats, it's only 25%, and the economy is number one for them. That's pretty wild how different MSNBC watchers are. Obviously, self-identified liberals say abortion, so they're right there with MSNBC watchers. But, I mean, really, not even atheists. Atheists say economy more than abortion. Something really wild is going on there. But then we have this other issue set that only limits the choices to abortion rights, illegal immigration, rising prices, and protecting our democracy. And protecting our democracy is like a dog whistle to these people. 46% of MSNBC watchers say protecting our democracy, and 28% say abortion rights, for a pretty massive combined total of 74%. Only 32% of CNN watchers say protecting our democracy. Protecting our democracy is a BS issue made up by, I don't know, the DC consulting class, the deep state, the propaganda press. It's a fake issue because Donald Trump is not taking our democracy. He's literally running for president. He was president in the past, and he facilitated a peaceful transfer of power. And abortion is a state issue. They're literally being told that Harris has to win because Donald Trump is going to take away their democracy or abortion rights. Fox News viewers objectively think the issue of illegal immigration is a problem that Biden caused that needs to be fixed. Same thing with rising prices. There is not symmetry between these two different media sources and how they view America. But how does that impact the race? Here are the matchup numbers, and this set of 10 polls, it's the 6 battlegrounds, including Virginia, North Carolina, Minnesota, and New Mexico. So with those lefter states in there, it should be a little bit left to center. Trump and Harris are exactly tied when all of those states are combined. But Harris wins 90% to 9% among MSNBC viewers. Trump only wins 80% to 18% among Fox News viewers. But here's the thing. If MSNBC reported more like CNN, and this is not an endorsement of the fairness of CNN, although I will tell you, I do not over and over again see CNN hosts banging away at Trump's a dictator with spittle flying from their mouths, the same way I do on MSNBC. And every once in a while, some honest reporting has been cracking through. It's almost like this echo chamber isn't tight enough to keep these people over here in the MSNBC column contained. But if you do the math and say, well, what if these MSNBC viewers voted like these CNN viewers, 80% Harris instead of 90% Harris, 17% of the electorate in these states watched MSNBC. So 10%, that's almost 2 points that would go away from Harris. And this is almost a point here that would go for Trump. The election would be entirely different if MSNBC reported just like CNN, which is an incredibly low bar because CNN is very fake news, as we all know. And these are sponsored by American Thinker. It's a legendary conservative blog. Please go there, sign up for their mailing list, follow them on Twitter. We're really happy they were able to sponsor these polls because otherwise we were not going to be able to do any state polling in September. But just there's so many things you could look at and see the absolute insanity of these people. 43% of MSNBC viewers think the Republican Party is the biggest enemy facing America. Although I will say that 56% of Newsmax people think the Democrat Party is. But again, my point is there is asymmetry in how objective and how much journalistic integrity these two places have. I think it is safe to say that MSNBC is not reporting with the same level of integrity as Newsmax. And this, again, isn't an endorsement of Newsmax even. I think it's a very uncontroversial statement to say that. Only 26% of CNN viewers think the Republican Party is the biggest enemy facing America. Compare that again, 43% for MSNBC viewers. And the other one I pointed out in the video, this is incredible too. If given a choice between two candidates, one of whom favored granting amnesty to all illegal aliens and one of whom favored deporting all illegal aliens, MSNBC viewers, 68% would support a candidate who gives amnesty to every one of the 20 to 25 million illegal aliens in this country. Only 13% of them would say the deportation candidate. It's only 53% say amnesty for CNN. So again, quite a difference. But then in this question, when offered some options, after being told that 1 million immigrants enter this country legally every year, MSNBC viewers a pretty good portion of them, 1/3, want a level of legal immigration lower than it currently is. And only 16% of them want more legal immigration, even though they want 20 plus million people to become citizens with the snap of a finger. So I'm sorry if some of that was a rehash for everybody, but here's what I want to talk about. The current national polling on Real Clear Politics is Harris plus 2.2. If you look at the graphic, it's been pretty stable. Now, I will say we did not see this strong of a run up in our daily numbers whatsoever. And I think that's because there's still a whole cadre of left-leaning pollsters that progressively moved Harris up week after week. But in our numbers, like I've said, this is now the 4th week in a row that the race has been locked in at Trump +2. This is our last week's number, but the new one's going to be the exact same thing. And everything else looks blue, but, Emerson's Harris +1, Quinnipiac is tied, CNN's Harris +1, New York Times CNN is tied. They've had Trump up. They might have Trump up again. I think you're going to see probably Atlas Intel drop another poll and Trafalgar, and they're all going to show probably the same kind of thing as me. And the numbers that show Harris left are New York Post's using somebody that I'm not sure, I think is kind of questionable. Morning Consult is ridiculous and all over the place. And Susquehanna hasn't been polling much. This is kind of out in left field, but everybody else is attached to a major news media organization or is using their own proprietary panel like Reuters and Ipsos. And these panels have had problems this time out, in my opinion. But don't take my opinion for it. Let's look at this. So people would look up here and say, well, 8 years ago, Hillary Clinton was up 3 points, and she finished about 2 points up. So the polling was 1 point left. Ergo, if the polling is 1 point left now, Harris is still up in the national popular vote. And if Biden won by 4, but he was up 8 4 years ago, ergo, the polling was left by about 4 points. I don't think it paints a whole picture. So, again, this is pretty stably 2 points, even though it's sort of swinging all over the place. But if you go back and look at the 2016 graph, see a different shape. Now, the race did narrow here in the middle of September and again at the end of October. But if you sort of try and draw a line through this, you're getting like a 47% number for Hillary Clinton, maybe a little bit higher. And you're getting like 42.5. So that's a 4.5 point on average lead for Hillary Clinton when she won by 2. Kamala Harris is up 2 now when Hillary Clinton was really up 4.5. Now, it begs the question, how much did polling error shift in 8 years? But Hillary Clinton won the national popular vote by 2 points and lost. Kamala Harris is doing 2 points at least worse than Hillary Clinton was 8 years ago. And really, if you start and look at some of these numbers, if CBS, Reuters, Ipsos, I really do think that they're doing the same thing they've done 4 years ago and 8 years ago and missing to the left. But it all comes down to Pennsylvania, because Pennsylvania is essentially, stuff might happen in North Carolina now, especially because of the hurricane. But our polling showed that Trump was up 3 in North Carolina. I think he's going to do better than that. So that is a safe Trump win. And if she doesn't get North Carolina, for her, it basically comes down to Pennsylvania. The Real Clear Politics aggregate for Pennsylvania is exactly tied right now, even with Bloomberg Morning Consult throwing in a Harris +5 that's way out in left field. And I think my polling that we put out, the Trump tied in Pennsylvania, is too left because of the sample and the internal demographics. I think Trump is winning Pennsylvania right now. But the point is if there is any leftward bias at all in the polling industry in Pennsylvania, Trump wins Pennsylvania. Now, the graph looks neck and neck. It really has been tied for a long time. But 4 years ago, Biden won by 1.2. But in the polling, at this point in the polling, he was up by a ridiculous 5 points in the industry. And back in October, it was like 8 points here, 7 or 8 points. That's ridiculous. So Trump is doing 5 to 7 points better than he was doing in Pennsylvania polling 4 years ago. And if you look at the Clinton numbers, it's the same kind of story. Trump won this state by almost a point. And in this period, Hillary Clinton was up like 10 points, 8 points, a ridiculous amount in the polling in Pennsylvania. Time and time again, the state polling misses incredibly to the left. And yet maybe this time they finally fixed it. I don't believe it. I think you're going to see a massive Trump outperformance here. And if that narrative was going to bust on through, I think this is where you would see it. This is Polymarket, a betting market. People trade with their own money. People have accused Polymarket of not being very accurate this time. I think that some of these markets are definitely being manipulated by ideological people who do not mind spending money. However, they can't force the market they can't keep the market from eventually being right. It's only a matter of time. And Pennsylvania has been relatively deadlocked for weeks now at roughly tie. Trump 49, Trump 50. All of a sudden, after the debate, though, there's been a ton of Trump buying pressure, and Trump is now up to 52% in Pennsylvania. And the Democrats, and that puts him up 4 points. This is really the first time in a while he's been meaningfully leaning in Pennsylvania. And why is that important? Again, this is a must-win state for Harris. But what you haven't seen yet is the national numbers break yet, although we are now tied. Trump has been down a point or two. At some point, this market is going to break. There's only so much polling can do. Polling can't tell you everything. Quite frankly, when people are putting out plus and minus 3 margin of error polls, there is going to be some polling error. So it is right to look for other forms of external validation about where the race is going. And that, in my opinion, is probably going to come from Polymarkets. If Polymarket shows Kamala Harris is losing, if the polling on Real Clear Politics shows Kamala Harris is losing, if the leaked internal polling from the Harris campaign shows that she's losing meaningfully in states like Michigan, between now and Election Day, the narrative is going to be that she's a loser, on top of the strikes, on top of now the federal emergency management efforts in North Carolina. These are not good things for her. At this point, this is the worst position a Democrat has been in the last 8 years. So I wish I could tell you that this presidential race is going to be exciting, but with Trump hitting +2 every single week in a row for a month, it doesn't look like the next month is going to be exciting. Although I guess waiting for something crazy to happen is a form of excitement in and of itself. What do you think we're going to see? We're probably at, peak possibility for surprises right now. If you got any theories, post them in the YouTube comments. Subscribe while you're at it and like the video. We'd really appreciate it. Or, you can go to Rumble if that's your thing too. Follow us on Twitter at Rasmussen_poll. And thanks for watching.